What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Nier Automata. This is episode 13, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Yeah, it's already been like a full year since we seen the last episode
Yeah.
of Nier Automata.
So yeah, the first half of the Nier Automata anime, of course, was kind of plagued with production issues. Like, we would have an episode come out, and then it would be delayed for like I think even like a month or two sometimes, like until the next episode would come out. And a lot of that was, we learned, I think a lot of that was due to Aniplex kind of, I guess, pushing the production forward, or trying to like push the anime out before it was technically ready, I guess. So we had a lot of delays because of that. And
Yeah,
I think
and
I'm hoping, at least for this second half of Nier Automata, that it's at least more finished, or at least it's technically it's done, and it's not, there aren't going to be any more of these delays. Um, but because I don't think we've really heard any rumors or anything that said there have been production issues, at least with the second half of this. But I guess it still remains to be seen. But they have had a while to work on the second half of the series, so I
yeah,
would hope at least that we aren't going to see any more production issues or delays with the episodes. Because like it is a shame, because I feel like a lot of the first half of the series would have had a lot more attention had it not been for these production delays, or the episodes being delayed as much as they were, because like a lot of the people who were watching the first half of the season kind of stopped watching because they didn't really know when like the next episode was coming out.
yeah, because the last four episodes got delayed indefinitely until like
Yeah,
they
and then
all
they
got
they all
released
like
at
came
the
out at
same.
once.
Yeah, they all came out at the exact same time. And so like I mean, like I'm glad that they finally released it, and of course they announced the second half of this season. But of course, it's been a full year since then. Uh, and now we if we finally get the continuation of of the story, which I like. If this episode, like, I thought we were gonna immediately start off with the battle between the androids and the machines,
Yeah,
but
same here.
instead this is a flashback episode which reveals a lot, which was technically revealed like by the end, near the end of the game.
Yeah, it is interesting how they, of course, like I feel like anything's possible with this anime, because as we saw with the first half of the Nier Automata anime, uh, and we know that Taro is involved, so some things have been changed. Like for instance, with the first half, we know that instead of Adam being the one to die, it was Eve, but that didn't really seem to change much. So I'm wondering, like, if, because we already have seen like a somewhat of a significant change already, but I'm wondering how that's going to affect the anime. And like what's if there's anything that's really significant that's going to be affected by some of the changes that are being made, because and of course the other thing with season one, another change is that instead of the resistance leader, instead of Anemone being the resistance leader, it was that other character, which I'm blanking on her name. Um,
Yeah, I think it was
but
what was it? It was Lily, I think.
Lily, yeah. So yeah, it was that character instead. And there were some other various changes that were made too, which I like, but I feel like it didn't really seem to affect like the overall story in comparison to how it played out in the game. But I'm wondering if there still could be some major changes that might make things play out a lot differently than they happened in the game.
Yeah. So this episode, like I said, well, the intro of the episode starts off in which, like, when um the rest of the Yorha androids are getting ready for supposedly their final battle. But the episode just gets us into a flashback of 2B and 9S on a scouting mission, in the ruins, and of course they help out like a resistance soldier who's looking for her lost friend. Now, what's interesting about this is this was actually a side quest in the game itself, and which
Yeah.
reveals like a major plot point. By the end of the game.
Well, we saw
So
this too in the first half of the series as well, when they covered the side quest, the Yorha Traders side quest. which was like kind of, I feel like they are covering like the important side quests that actually do like add to the main plot, like because the Yorha Trader side quest was kind of some foreshadowing for like what Yorha was kind of up to.
Yeah.
And then this quest as well, uh, had a pretty significant reveal. So I feel like that's why they decided to focus on this quest as this side quest. Um, but yeah, like it had a pretty important reveal. But we also get some. I also want to point out we do get some interesting like. Which we did get in the first half of the season, but we get some more like interesting, I guess you'd say like Easter eggs in this episode for those who've played the original Nier, of some of the locations that 2B and 9S visit, because at one point they go to the Lost Shrine, which is a location from that of course pulled directly from the original Nier, um, and they go through the Lost Shrine. So that was kind of crazy to see them actually like do that, and I wasn't really surprised though, because as I mentioned, we did see in the first half of the anime that there were quite a few references to the original Nier. Even seeing some of the characters from the original Nier, like Ayane.
Oh yeah, and of course, I think I can't remember. It was either the opening or the closing, but they had like this image
Oh,
with
there's a
2B with the flower
yeah, there's
over
there's
her eye.
there's also a Dragon Guard reference. Um, I like I said, I think I might have mentioned this when we were doing reviews for the first half of the series, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a character from Dragon Guard 3 that might show up in the anime at least, which is Accord. Mainly because Accord is a character that can travel. Like I think she can travel across dimensions. So I wouldn't be surprised if she showed up as at least as like some kind of an Easter egg or something, or like a reference.
Maybe some type of flashback or something. I don't know.
I don't think it would be a
Um,
flashback considering she's from Drakengard, but
oh, okay,
she
okay.
might just be there just to yeah, kind of just to be there, or maybe she supplies like items or some weapons or something like that, because she has like a I think she's a travel like a merchant that can travel across dimensions and time.
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah, so like move so once 2B and 9S are looking for, the resistance soldier's lost friend, they find a Yorha soldier's corpse that they find out that through like it's flat, what was it? It's memory storage or its images, that the same resistance soldier that hired them to find this Yorha soldier was the one that killed her. And then, of course, this resistance soldier just pops up and reveals that she's also a Yorha android as well. But she reveals that she's an E-type android designed to assassinate other androids for suspected of betraying Yorha. And then, of course, feeling guilt um, over over her actions. I mean, she said this is not the first time she's done this. She's done this countless times, and she just like out of nowhere she just like decides to kill herself by falling off the building.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and this kind of, at least in the game, this makes you question like what Yorha's real objectives are, and like just makes you wonder what Yorha's really up to.
Yeah, and of course, 9S is surprised by this, but uh, obviously, like looking at 2B, like she's not, she doesn't show any emotion or any sort of like indication of like she's surprised by all of this. So, for like further down in the episode, I think they 2B and 9S continue their scouting mission to a nearby shrine. But when like all of a sudden, like when 9S is distracted by something, 2B literally just almost like decapitates him. But before he she can do that, like of course 9S turns around in time just to, not get himself killed. So they continue down at the ruins of the shopping mall where the pair defeat a machine, and then all of a sudden they encounter Emil, uh, of all characters, because
Yeah.
if we remember correctly, in season one, well, in the first core, we saw Emil's head like just inside of a tree that was like enshrined, in the machine village. So
Yeah,
why?
so this is another kind of significant change from the game, because in the game Emil of course isn't in a tree, and in the in the robot village, um, and he's just kind of a his head is attached to a van and he's just traveling around the ruins of the city and he's like just a merchant basically. He sells you things, um, and this is kind of how he's introduced in the game at first is that he just is inside the head of the robot and and that's how he's introduced in the game and that's how he's introduced in this episode. So it does make me wonder like so what is actually going on with his character if he's supposed to be in the tree but then he's in also in the robot head. So I'm kind of wondering what's going on with that. Like I mean there is I don't want to go into it, but there is a spoiler having to do with Emil once you learn about his backstory and later on in the game. So there could be something with that, like maybe because all I'll say is maybe there is more than one Emil, but I'm not really sure why there would be at this point in time, considering that he there used to be more of him, but I think he is like as of right now, like I think it's just him. So
Mhm.
not really sure like what I don't know. I'm not really sure what Taro's where he's going with that in the anime. Um
Yeah. So, like once like Emil's head just runs off, Tubi suddenly just attacks 9S, literally just cutting his arm off to the point where um like Tubi reveals herself as 2E, which is of course she's also an executioner android. And of course 9S is of course not surprised by this because I think he suspected this for a while now. But he still doesn't go out with without a fight. So he ends up stabbing 2B, but of course 2B of course fatally stabs 9S and he ends up dying to the point where 2B of course like unsurprisingly she feels like just grief just having to kill him again.
yeah. Um yeah, because technically like 9S has died, multiple times. But 2B does, obviously start to feel like you said, just start to feel grief over having had to kill him so many times.
Yeah. When we also see images of all the different times that she's killed him. I mean,
Yeah.
she sliced him in half, she decapitated him, stabbed him, like threw him off a cliff, whatever. Just like yeah, it's like we don't know how many times she's done this, but she's done it numerous times where it's gotten to the point where Tubi just doesn't want to do it anymore. So yeah, so it's and of course the commander is also is aware of this, and she believes that that this that she believes that 2B won't have to go through this again once they initiate their final battle.
Yeah, and that's of course where we kind of end off the episode. This is they're setting up for the quote unquote the final battle with the androids and the machines, which is where the second half of the game is supposed to start, and that's where I at least I initially where I thought that this second core was going to start, but it seems like that's going to be in the next episode.
Yeah, and of course, as we all know, all hell is going to break loose once that battle
Yeah.
starts.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I guess in the next either the next episode or two, what happens with that because there is of course something fairly significant that happens at that point in the story. So I will be interested to see what direction they go. If they decide to go a very different direction from the game, because we have seen some like we mentioned before, there have been some significant changes, but if the opening is anything to go by, it does seem like it's going to take a very similar route to the game. But the opening could be misleading. I mean, Taro has been known to do stuff like that, where he will kind of make you think something is going to happen, and then just do like a 180 like heel turn all of a sudden. So that could happen, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I thought it was a good episode, though. I thought it was an interesting decision to kind of to do this instead of just kind of following the game at this point and actually like showing us this like flashback instead. But it was obviously kind of important because it did give us some fairly important information. Um, So yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about it though. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, I am happy that that Nier Automata's back. But what I'm hoping is that not we're not going to get plagued by all these production issues like we
Yeah.
did before. I mean, this if there was one time they should not have production issues, it's this season because this is like one of the more important. This is the second half of the story is more important than the first half was.
Yeah, that this is where like a lot of really crazy things are going to happen. So I really hope there isn't going to be any production delays with this season or with this part of the season either. Um, but yes, I mean so far, I'm pretty excited for it. I mean, as somebody who's played the game, it's going to be interesting to see what direction they end up going with the story. Again, I will have to say like I don't really think that this is a good series to watch for newcomers who like haven't played the at least who or at least haven't played Nier Automata. Because I think that I wouldn't say they're going to be completely lost, but I think they're going to be confused on some details. And I think it would be beneficial for people to have at least played the game before watching the anime.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, but yeah, other than that, guys, until next time, we will see you all later.